Welcome, everybody, to another episode of our Restricted Handling podcast. You are stuck with just me, Ryan, this time. Glenn is in a very interesting place, but we, in his stead, have two great folks. We've got Mike and Delina from Ukraine who are fighting on the front lines. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for taking the time to meet with us today. Delina, our understanding is you're in the research and development side of drones overall, probably more aerial.
Можеш взагалі розповісти трохи про себе, про свій підрозділ?
Пішов до лав Збройних сил з початку повномасштабної агресії.
Due to the lack of combat experience, prior combat experience, Delina was operating in terms of logistics. After the successful defense of Kyiv, the unit was moved to Zaporizhia. Considering the fact that Delina himself is from Zaporizhia, he was really happy about the unit going and fighting over there. He wanted to protect his home, so he transferred to the battle unit and was conducting operations as an infantryman.
І був оператором Джавеліну.
After that, our unit was transformed into a third separate assault brigade, and we traveled to Kherson Oblast, Kherson counteroffensive. And luckily for us, there were almost no direct contact with the enemy. Enemy was just retreating constantly, and we were just advancing.
Після чого нас одразу перекинули на Бахмутський напрямок.
Right after that, we joined Bakhmut. After that, unit was conducting primarily anti-tank missions. So we are a little bit more far away from the infantrymen trenches and positions. And for quite big amount of time, we're constantly experiencing artillery shelling and mortar shelling. And one day someone came up with an idea of trying arming an FPV drone and trying to reach either enemy infantrymen positions or enemy vehicles.
FPV і впровадження цього засобу в наших підрозділах.
This is how the development of FPV units started in our brigade. This already happened in 2023. This wasn't easy because there were not many people with background knowledge in terms of FPV and drones. And apart from that, you also required to have some knowledge in terms of electronic warfare, signal transmission, and whatnot. But the key point of the unit is that the unit itself is very highly motivated, and the unit wanted not just to be even with the enemy in terms of the impact we can do on them and they can do on us, but we wanted to be better, and we started development in this field. So things you can see now in social media, like FPVs flying around and hitting cars and vehicles and artillery trucks and whatnot, this changed the way the war and special military operations or any kind of military operations is conducted. And comparing to the way the war was conducted in 2022 and the way it happens and looks right now, very different.
Зараз ми можемо собі дозволити за допомогою.
Nowadays, we can allow ourselves to successfully impact enemy on a distance of 35 kilometers from the pilot's position. And this is capability of an FPV drone that's estimated cost is $500.
Wow.
Як одне з порівнянь ми можемо зробити.
So we can easily compare price of one shot of 155 millimeter artillery shell and the price of an FPV drone.
And Delina, you're the commander of this research and development unit for drones. Is that right?
Yes.
Could you describe to people what you do day to day, just to give people an idea of what your work is like?
Я маю велику команду в своєму підпорядкуванні. Одна частина команди займається якраз радіотехнічним устаткуванням, там пайкою, збіркою всіх проєктів, засобів, які ми розробляємо.
So one unit is responsible for manufacturing all the stuff that's flying, like electronic and technical parts of it. Second part of the team is responsible for IT development and software for these drones to be programmed correctly. And third unit is responsible for testing and flying out all those drones, both in the field far from the front line and on the front line. And they're also responsible for integration of those UAVs and other drones into the unit. A crucial part of Delina's job is going from one unit to another, from one brigade to another, getting to know their pilots, what problems they face on the battleground, and how this can be fixed. And so also a big part is communication with civilian manufacturers and trying to explain to them that some job that's done by them is not really necessarily or like beneficial for the frontline or for the unit, and what has to be changed.
What did both of you do before the war started?
Що ти робив до початку війни?
До початку війни я займався організацією, проведенням.
Delina was into sports, so it's trail runs and CrossFit. And also he was working with summer camp for kids.
How about you, Mike?
I was studying overseas, not like overseas. I was studying in Europe, in Lithuania. Yeah, just studying.
Wow, very different life. So I guess, Delina, with that kind of background you just described, how did you get chosen to command such a unit of research and development, software engineers, all of this?
Бо я по факту
So as Delina mentioned before, back in 2023, he was in the field and he was working on integrating FPV in a way we can see it now, in the way it operates now on the front line. So he has a lot of knowledge in this field. Even now, Delina and his team, they go to the front lines directly and they visit units that use types of drones that were developed by Delina and his team. They test it out, they fly.
What have you seen for changes in Russian tactics in the past maybe 3 months? If we look at Pokrovsk, we've heard about them using fog to maneuver very small units. I assume a lot of this is to fight against your drone capabilities.
Що скажеш про зміни в тактиці росіян за останні 3 місяці? So yeah, they change their tactics a lot. For example, if they're using a tank, they cover them with all types of stuff that may protect the main battle tank from FPVs, like nets and whatnot, slices of metal, pipes. And this also impacts the way main battle tanks are being used right now. They don't use it as a superior firepower. They use it for just demining positions for the infantry to walk forward on. But in our line of responsibility, enemy is also using weather and trying to breach with small units using fog, mud, and all that.
What does that force you to do with the drones then? Like, I was trying to imagine in some of these areas with bad weather, forests, how do you try to stay ahead of that as you develop drones?
на таку погоду дуже.
So if talking about foggy terrain or forests, we use fiber optic cable drones. Considering the fact that they're using fiber optic, they have to stay really low to the ground and the visibility is better over there because fog is not that low. It helps us to maneuver.
And with the fiber optics though, like, isn't that really difficult to maneuver then in dense terrain just because you have the cable trailing the entire time?
Obviously, it's harder to control optic fiber drones, but we try to improve the skills, personal skills of every pilot. And we can see that with the span of time, it gets really easy for them to maneuver and adapt and overcome.
What's the biggest challenge you face in just maintaining a steady supply of drones and operations and capabilities to the front lines?
So as an R&D unit, our job is to develop, test, make sure it's approved for the battlefield, and only then we're looking for the manufacturer who can produce it in larger scale. Lots of components are coming from China. As far as we know, United States of America treat Chinese components not that good. But even if we speak in terms of cell phones and we look at your cell phone or ours, it mostly contains Chinese components inside.
How do you determine if your work is successful?
So obviously this is about results on the battlefield. Enemy is no longer to be seen. He's not alive and our troops are alive and well.
How do you determine developing drones that are anti-personnel, anti-tank, reconnaissance? You know, there's so many different purposes for drones. What do you tend to focus on?
Ну, ми, в принципі, робимо ті засоби, які.
So we work mostly with supportive kind of drones, the ones that help to transmit the signal and make it easier for the FPV, any type of kamikaze or UAV, hit the target or recon it successfully and not lose the signal.
If it's okay with operational security, can you describe that more? Is it like a relay signal so that they have stronger reception as the drones get further away from the pilot? Or is it watching the target so that the operator is able to better strike the target?
So it mostly helps with the terrain. Like in some places, terrain really varies a lot and signal may be lost easily. I believe it's called radio horizontal, radio horizon or something like that. And with the help of those drones, supportive drones, we help to transmit the signal directly to the FPV, so the pilot won't lose his signal and will eventually strike the target.
Наші FPV-дрони залітають на відстань понад там 30-35 кілометрів.
With the help of those drones, our FPV kamikaze drones strike targets up to 30-35 kilometers, and UAV kamikazes, those are bigger, they strike up to 70 kilometers. So in terms of prices, FPV kamikazes are around $500 and UAV kamikazes are up to $1,000.
Is it just different munitions, components, size? What makes the difference in price?
UAV kamikazes are based on plane models, and FPV are based on quadrocopters and that stuff. So yeah, this is like what makes the price difference, components and all that stuff.
What is, in the West, in the US, we read a lot about what's going on in the fighting, how difficult it is. You hear Putin talking about how well they're doing for Russia. It doesn't seem to be that way from what we can read about the front lines. But what is morale like in your unit?
Наші хлопці виходять на позиції, працюють.
So we're completely focused on defense of our homeland. Even today, during the first few hours of the morning, we already destroyed one ACV, one infantryman, and one motorcycle. We don't pay that much attention to the political sphere and what happens in the world of politics. We work in the field and our job is to protect our country. And that's what we're doing pretty successfully.
In that example you just gave for the, destroying an APV, an infantryman, motorcycle, how many drones were required to do such an operation?
So the amount of FPVs really varies from day to day. Terrain and weather and electronic warfare units that enemy has, they impact a lot. As for those 3 targets that were destroyed today, earlier in the morning, it was required for us to launch 6 or 7 FPV drones. Also, it's crucial to mention that enemy is using hunting rifles a lot, like buckshot munition, to counter FPV drone when it's coming for the strike already. And this also makes some problems for us.
When you mentioned tanks earlier, are you seeing advanced battle tanks, or are these very old models now that are having to be used?
We haven't seen advanced main battle tanks, Russian main battle tanks, for a long time now. And maybe they have no more T-90s or T-14 Armata. Nowadays, they changed the way they use their main battle tanks a lot. Quite often, we can observe that they use them from closed fire positions. So they use them as an artillery, not as something that's capable of advancing forward and assaulting our positions. They stay somewhere behind. We even seen one main battle tank completely dug into the ground. So there was only turret sticking from the ground, and he was shooting one ammo by one. So there won't happen detonation of his ammo rack in case he's hit.
What do you see for Russian capabilities for FPV drones? Are they advancing quickly? Do you worry about those?
So spreading information about the way we use our FPV drones is good, but it's also quite bad for us because Russians observe it as well, and they just copy the way we use drones, the way they look, the way we use tactics for those FPV drones, components and whatnot. And this is what plays bad card for us.
Також росіяни дуже швидко масштабуються. Свої виробництва, у них це прям,
Main thing with Russians is that if they successfully researched and developed one kind of drone or anything else, they quickly upscale its production, and it's no problem for them, for example, to close one of the factories that produces bread and now it produces FPVs.
I think you have created a kill house. I think you've got some footage in there, a FPV kill house. Can you describe that, the kill house and what social media is doing, like how you try to use social media for your cause?
So Kill House is a project that was developed by the ex-anti-tank battalion commander, Maha. The main point for creating Kill House was for the civilian people to be able to get some knowledge prior to getting into the armed forces of Ukraine, get some skills, get some knowledge in the field of FPVs, EV, UAVs. Later on, we developed more professional courses, advanced course for FPV, separate courses for UGVs.
Question for you, Mike, and then we'll ask Delina, what do you want to do when this war is over?
No idea. I'm not planning for such a big span of time.
And then how about for Delina?
Що плануєш робити після війни?
Ну, дуже пафосно наверно, прозвучить, але
Firstly, he wants to visit all the graves of his fallen comrades that passed away during the war.
наша задача зробити так, щоб
Our goal here is to make sure that they are never forgotten within our country, by our people, our nation, and that we can help and support their families, their children. And of course, we'd like to relax and just chill out a bit after the war is over. And then we want to focus on spreading the experience we got from this war for others. And of course, to stay alert and keep on training, because with a neighbor like that, you always have to stay alert.
The last question, any message for our American audience that you'd like to, if you could speak directly to Americans about this war, what would you say?
So we have Sergeant Corps in Ukraine, and we have a saying within the Sergeant Corps, look at me, follow me, and do as I do. And this is a message for military, especially for US military, that they observe the actions and counter-actions done by both Ukraine and Russia, and they stay alert in the field. The war in Ukraine changed the way all the military operations will be conducted in the nearest future, and war won't ever look the same as it was before 2022.
We appreciate the hell out of both of you, the soldiers you're fighting with, and the battle you're fighting. Thank you for doing what you do. We'll have links to your Instagram here. I hope a lot of people check it out. And you two stay very safe.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks for listening and being a part of the RH community. Would you like to receive the same daily intel brief that Glenn and I read? You can get it for free at restrictedhandling.com. We've curated what we consider to be the most relevant and reputable sources on all things international security, geopolitics, military and intel ops, and economics and sanctions, focused exclusively on Russia, China, Iran, North Korea, and the Middle East, to include accompanying podcasts for Russia, China, economics, and spy stories. Just head to restrictedhandling.com, enter your email, and you'll get the daily briefs that Glenn and I both read, and you can leave comments and questions that we can respond to. Thanks again for listening. Stay safe.